IVC Dale, Gatewell 33 here. So this is a thread response to Chris Vinyl Orchard's just carried on the motion with a thread that was closing tracks with the I guess the logical next step, opening tracks. I did say in my comment I wish I'd given it a little bit of time so I could give my brain a rest before I had to kind of think about how to respond. So I'll give myself a challenge here. So what I'm doing is I am not going to show my typical favourites. I feel like these sorts of threads, I'm going back to the same artists and same albums over and over again. So you'll be relieved to hear there's no Kate Bush, no Nick Cave, no Camera Obscura, no Richard Thompson, and Oh Mercy by Bob Dylan is not going to feature in this video. So even though I've just said them. And what I've also done is I've tried to make this hard for myself. I've gone for great songs, opening albums that are also the title track of the album. So I've also narrowed the field. So with that kind of in mind. So these aren't my all-time favourite opening tracks from albums. They're obviously songs that fit in with that narrower category that I've given myself. And I thought I'd start with sort of following on from Chris. So Chris seems to like his hard and heavy classic rock, and there's always a great place for that. So I thought I'd show a couple that sort of I think Chris has shown that the same artists, so I thought I would just show a couple from that to start with. So Chris showed Black Sabbath's debut album and Black Sabbath, that is a great opening track. I'm not sure I agree it's the greatest opening track on any album ever, but I don't have an alternative answer on that, so it's right at the moment. I would have to give that some thought and come back to you in 4 years' time. So this is Black Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, which opens with Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, obviously, because that's the theme of this. With my other pair of glasses there, the theme of this thread that I'm doing. So so I think that's a great. So this is an original copy on with the ultra rare in a sleeve, which I won't try and get back in because I won't crease it even more than it's creased. And Chris also loves his Deep Purple, so I thought I'd also show Fireball, which opens with the track Fireball. I'm going to have to stop saying that. That's so yeah. This one does have the lyric in the insert as well. So yeah, another great album with another great opener. I've got too much stuff here. That's just going to go wrong. Next one. So Chris also showed the Clash's first album. So I'm going to go for the obvious. And this I nearly didn't choose this because although this has got the fantastic opening song, it's virgin with me on that I've heard it too much. So you've probably guessed what it is already. So this is London Calling. This is again an original copy that I got from Boot Sale a few years ago. I've had to pay 12 quid for it off of a woman who wouldn't haggle, but that's absolutely mint. She bought it the day it came out. She told me she had about 4 albums to sell. This is one of them. But yeah, lovely copy, London Calling. So I've said before that I listen to really mellow ambient music when I travel into London on my commute. Probably the half-hour walk to the station, the hour on the train, but the half-hour or 20 minutes that I have walking from the station to my office, I need to shake myself up. And if I've got nothing in mind, typically this album is something that I put on. If there's something about walking through, the kind of Westminster area of London at 8 o'clock in the morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and listening to something like this. Next, this is a bit of a guilty pleasure, you might say, or maybe not. So this is Aphrodites Child and the album End of the World, which starts with End of the World. This one belonged to Tim Tyler originally. He autographed it for me. So that, yeah, it's a nice psychedelic colour. So this came before. This came before this, and I guess it's a pop psyche, but this more heavily features Demis Roussos's voice, and that's where the guilty pleasure comes in, because my mum was a big Demis Roussos fan, and I played it a lot, and so I actually quite like Demis Roussos's voice. I don't have any Demis Roussos albums at all, I will say. But I have done, and I probably should have, but I am partial to his voice. This features. So this is Aphrodites Child, End of the World, which opens with End of the World. So I haven't shown much jazz so far in my find. So I thought I'd show a couple of jazz albums that open with superb title tracks. This is one of my favourites, and this is one of my go-to jazz albums. If I was going to, do the go-to jazz album thread, this would be in it. And the opening track, "Cool Strutting" on this by Sonny Clark, is a brilliant track. This gets you. I mean, it is cool strutting is exactly what it is. The music. Yeah, it's really good, cool music to play when you're in that kind of mood. And this one is Lee Morgan's Sidewinder, and again a similar kind of tempo and a similar kind of approach. Obviously, well, not similar approach, completely different, but yeah, Lee Morgan's The Sidewinder is another great opening track. Both of these are kind of long, I think 10 minute instrumentals. This one might be a little bit of a cheat, I don't know, because this is a library record, but this is a very famous library record, very expensive. This is a reissue. So this is StringTronics. It's now called StringTronics, aren't it? Yeah, it's called Mindbender, and opens with the track Mindbender, and yeah, it kind of sounds like that. So this is kind of a revered library record in the library sort of aficionados. I bought this reissue a few years ago. But it's got some really good and a good variety of kind of themes and to it. But Mindbender is a good kind of psyche, funky opening track to this. So I've got too much stuff on my desk. Now we're going into, what is this? 70s prog. I wouldn't call it psych, I call it more prog, but good, or 70s rock. So this is Cressida and Asylum, which opens with the track Asylum. So this is obviously a reissue. This costs a fortune if you wanted to buy an original on the Vertigo label. And this is another one of those, I featured in my first video, this is another one of those that Repertoire put out, where they put out, so I've got a message just appeared on my camera. Microphone. They put out on this homage, so not a faux, but they're not trying to rip it off, because it's obviously not the same, but they put it out in a kind of style of Vertigo. I'll put that back afterwards when all this mess falls off. Where are we? I've lost count now. I think I've done 8. I should have said, did I say I was doing 11? Obviously my 10 is going to be 11. I've got a kind of an honorary mention at the end, and I'll tell you why. Should have researched this. So number 9 is Steel Pulse, Handsworth Revolution. Is Revolution? Yeah, Revolution. I think it's a Resolution. So this is was it 77, 78? I can't remember. This is reggae, and Steel Pulse were from the Midlands, Coventry, I think. And what I like about the opening track on this, I should have said a bit more about the tracks, shouldn't I? What I like about the opening track on this is it kind of tells the story of what of why and what in a song, in a 5-minute song. So it kind of tells you the kind of oppression, the depression, whatever you want to call it, of that period, and what it was like to be black, and in a kind of Midlands council estate, and kind of living in that period, all encapsulated in a song. But this is a great album, so yeah, all done in a reggae style. So this isn't my favourite Nick Drake album, but it's got a fantastic opening song, so I included it. So Nick Drake's Pink Moon, just a beautiful song. This is obviously a reissue, not an original, and I think I've already shown I bought those boxes that came out, sort of reissue boxes of the 3 Nick Drake albums. I bought the 3 of those when they came out a few years ago, so that's from that. So honorary mention, so I was really sad to hear the last week or so of the death of one of the lead singer of one of my favourite bands, The Pretty Things. So Phil May died. Sounds like quite a sad story. I think he had an accident cycling his bike and had hip operations and died from complications of that. So that's I'd say tragic news. Very sad. And I was lucky enough, I think I've said in a couple of videos, I was lucky enough to see them in 2018 when in London, when they did their last ever, they were supposed to be their last ever sort of full rock gig that they were going to do. They had most sort of the current past members of the Pretty Things, and David Gilmour guested, and so did Van Morrison. It was a really good evening, and a really great night. So yeah, and now it's obviously sadly departed. So I'm showing sort of in honour SF Sorrow. So these are the US and UK versions of SF Sorrow, which I say slightly cheap because it opens with SF Sorrow was born rather than straight SF Sorrow. I did buy bought the box set that came out a year or two ago to commemorate 50 years. So it must have been 2018 for 50 years of SF Sorrow. So they brought out a box of. So it had these 2 albums, the live albums, some singles, and various nice book and paraphernalia that comes with those box sets. So I thought I'd include that as an 11th to say. So yes, very sad that Phil May is no longer with us. I understand that the Pretty Things had recorded an album that's in the can, ready to come out. So at least we might have that to remember Phil by. So that's it. Thanks. Bye.